Want a holiday gift your employees or clients will actually love? Send them gourmet peanuts from Hubbard Peanut Company. Hub's Peanuts is a family-owned company that's been making high-quality, delicious peanuts and sending them to every corner of the globe since 1954. Order some of Hub's plain, salted, or chocolate-covered peanuts in a special gift tin for the perfect gift for your friends, employees, clients, or even yourself. Visit hubspeanuts.com. That's HUBS peanuts.com.
So you're up in Nashville?
Nashville, that's right.
How long have you been in Nashville now?
About 15 years. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Place
I
to
love
make
it.
music, that's for sure.
It's definitely a place to make music. It can be a humbling place as well, because a lot of these folks know what they're doing, so it's great. But it's a great place to learn and cultivate your skills and develop your craft. So
Now, where did you come from before Nashville?
originally from St. Louis, Missouri. So about 5.5 hours away. So not that far. So
That's not too bad. I'm about 5.5 hours to you. I'm in Atlanta. So
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, beautiful drive. Gosh, I love going up to Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah. Same on my end. Yeah. I think it's what, you said 4 hours, 4.5?
Maybe like five and change.
5. Okay.
You curve up through Chattanooga, which is gorgeous. I love it over there. And then you make your way towards Nashville, go over Mont Eagle and those places.
Yeah, it is a beautiful drive. And Chattanooga is kind of an underrated spot as well. There's a lot of, great things to do there too. So
I've been down in the Southeast for years, and I remember Chattanooga just transforming. It was once this like kind of a dirty backwater back in the late 60s and through the 70s. And then in the late 80s, all the way through the 90s and beyond, it was like, it's amazing how they turned it around.
Yeah, for sure.
Completely. This is so being in Nashville though, I'm sure like it doesn't have that hard edge like your LA's or New York. So you got creative people. It must be awesome too.
Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah, for sure, than those places. I've been in New York a few times, almost moved there a while back, but didn't. I have a lot of friends that are New Yorkers, but just ended up staying here for now.
Cool. And as far as your songwriting and recording career, how has that taken off throughout all these years?
We've had some songs placed on different things. There's a song I wrote called Vinyl Days that had some airplay in the Northeast and not super prime market, but some other spots. So it had some success. There were some film and TV pitches for that one. We haven't solidified anything yet, but that song's had some traction. Then I've done country music as well, so some of my stuff has had some success. I did an arrangement for a country artist named Brandon Lay, who's on Universal, and it was Tennessee Christmas, but it was like a piano version that got released as like a video with him and his wife. So that was kind of cool. And then it's just a lot of stuff. I mean, I did the show Nashville for a few episodes, and you're doing a lot of sessions for other artists, so playing keys or singing backgrounds, and then writing your own music and trying to get placements. We had one song that was on a video game or something, so you'll get these notifications from your PRO every now and then, and still trying to figure out where all these pieces are going to actually, culminate into like, this is what I do in this streamline, like look at my career or whatever, But right now it just feels like there's hundreds of pieces scattered all over the place, kind of waiting for that time, to see how it all makes sense,
It seems like through the pandemic, people are getting this kind of work where it's like, TV, film, and, there is a lot to be had there. There's so much content being generated, even though we're not seeing ourselves in person anymore.
Sure. Right. It's different. I loved doing sessions live, with other players, and in the room, you can come up with, cool ideas that you weren't even thinking, even on a song that you had written. Someone might have an idea, and I love the collaboration aspect of it. So it is a little different doing a lot of things virtually. Technology allows you to do it, so it's great that it exists, but there is something special. Hopefully we'll get back to that someday where we can get back in the studio. It's fun. It's just a unique experience. So
yeah, I think that's where collaboration is important, especially with musicians. Yeah, you could sit here and you could trade files and you could do your Zooms and WebExes and stuff like that. But being, there's nothing that compares to the spontaneity of y'all being in the studio and just going through that way.
Yeah, it's fun. Now, what about you? What do you do? Or are you you're living in Atlanta? Are you originally from there?
No, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. That's the birthplace of rock and roll. That's
yeah.
It was always on my radar growing up there. In Cleveland, they put the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame there. I remember it was in the 80s. They were really debating, there were a lot of cities who were fighting for that.
Oh,
and
sure.
They finally got that going.
Yeah.
I've been in the Atlanta area now for almost going on 33 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've seen a lot of transformation down here in the Southeast.
Yeah, I bet.
Been working a lot in television. A lot of my works have appeared the Warner Media properties, CNN, CNNI. Do a lot of video work and producing for those outlets. So that's been a lot of fun. One of my latest projects, I did a package for a series called Champions for Change.
Okay.
It's a sponsored series that they do. So it's really a lot of fun to do that. But in my spare moments, I have done music packages, features for what was then the Airport Network. So this podcast kind of it stems from that. I did a lot of package. I interviewed a guy named John Oates who lives. Who has a really good band of his own, or at least he did 3-4 years ago, and traveled with them. And did some of those features on those musicians, and then Airport folded during the pandemic. And this is a great creative outlet, and talking with people like you who create magic.
Yeah.
It's really, it's fascinating what you all do.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. It's a fun thing to get to do. Sometimes you don't realize, how lucky you are until something happens like a COVID, and all of a sudden it's like, boy, I enjoyed going in there a lot more than I thought I did. You know what I mean? So you think you're a loner until you're forced to be one for a few months. And then, you miss folks.
True. Now, you have your nice, beautiful piano there. What type of piano is that?
This is a Mason and Hamlin double B, actually.
That's a beauty.
So yeah, Mason and Hamlin, it was originally one of the premier American-made pianos with Steinway. This was a Boston-made piano, and the Steinway is New York. But they're both, super high quality. I wouldn't turn either one of them down, But I was fortunate. A country artist I actually met, he had this piano that he brought from New York for his father, who was the first classical piano professor at West Point, of all things. So he was a piano professor there, traveled all over the world, and unfortunately passed due to COVID. I think he was probably 92 or something. I mean, he was in his 90s. So they had purchased this piano from the New Jersey Opera House, and they were moving it down with him. And he passed. They brought the piano down. He doesn't really play, so I was playing, and he heard me play. His dad was playing a Clair de Lune, which everyone's probably familiar with that. And I started playing along with the video that his dad had on there. He was like, if you want it, I'll make you a great deal. So we have a townhome here. Square footage, I guess it's up to interpretation sometimes. So I really don't have the space aesthetically for it, but I couldn't say no. So here it is, but I'm thankful to have it, but it's a great one.
Absolutely beautiful. Do you have to have somebody like professional come in there and maintain and tune that? How does that work with something that's so classic like that?
You do. I have a tuner that he's a tech tuner, rebuilder. So he knows pianos inside and out. So he can take, it's kind of a little nerve wracking to watch him do it, but he can almost take it down part by part and just lay it out if he wanted to. Yeah. To like restring new hammers, you can do all that. A lot of folks are leery to jump into the acoustic piano game because of all of the, what if this happens or what if this breaks in the tuning? But really, if you have a good tech that you trust, you're pretty safe. Actually moving a grand's a little easier than an upright sometimes if you have the right folks doing it because of the tools they can use to move this. But yeah, I love it. There's the overtones that you get when you play the piano. So like when you play a digital instrument, it's sending a sound signal like a laser, right?
Sure,
And it's hard to get the overtone that comes, not
Yeah.
just the notes, but just like the human voice. There's other things going on than
There's that
just the
warmth.
laser digitals. Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Kind of like the glue that takes the tones and puts them together. So you just can't beat it. Of course, you can't take it with you on the road, but
Used to many moons ago. I remember seeing Elton John years ago with the big,
uh-huh.
and something broke on it, and the tech came right out.
Sure.
Quickly fixed everything up. I mean, it's like this total genius, and that
Sure.
thing with the crowd while they were doing wasn't even like 3 minutes.
Wow. Yeah. I'm sure Elton has his tech game squared away. You know what I mean?
And that was
I'm
like
sure
37 years ago.
Oh yeah. No, those guys are at the top, and they definitely know what they're doing. So Billy Joel, Elton John,
Yeah.
they've got it going on for sure.
But these days, though, like a Billy and Elton, these legacy artists, don't they have it digitally and it's like encased in something like that? That's what I've
Yep.
heard. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes it easier. There's a lot of tracks going on, and there's just
Want a holiday gift your employees or clients will actually love? Send them gourmet peanuts from Hubbard Peanut Company. Hub's Peanuts is a family-owned company that's been making high-quality, delicious peanuts and sending them to every corner of the globe since 1954. Order some of Hub's plain, salted, or chocolate-covered peanuts in a special gift tin for the perfect gift for your friends, employees, clients, or even yourself. Visit hubspeanuts.com. That's HUBS peanuts.com.
pianos can go out of tune, especially if you would actually be, moving that around from venue to venue, and the guitar is going to be in perfect A440 and so on. And they might be tuned. You got to tune to the piano, and it's just easier to do that, to get that perfect sonic sound. But there's also a lot of things you can do with keyboards now, running different programs so that you have, like, it's called Keyscape or Ivory or samples from Mainstage. So you can really dial it in now more than you ever could before.
Yeah.
So, and somebody like that, they've got a team of people making sure that piano is, exactly how he wants it to be. And everybody has a different preference. So one artist might want a mellower sound, darker sound. Some might want it a little brighter, and so on, So yeah, they've come a long way for sure.
Yeah, it's just fascinating when I see these artists and how they have like massive crews and they're able to pull off such a great production. And it's like, yeah, sure, certainly tickets have gone way up, but you're also paying the crew. I mean, I know the main
100%.
person is definitely making good money, but it's like these people work so hard. I've been backstage with some of these artists. It's just like, wow. I'm really amazed at what they're able to pull off.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it from a business perspective, but I had a chance to meet a lot of the artists that I looked up to my whole life. And when you are backstage, like you said, I mean, you see, boy, there's like a family, like a large family of people their livings depend on this one person deciding they still want to tour or put out a new album or whatever it may be, And it's not just the band you see on stage, but the tech crew and the front of house and back. I mean, just on and on, the road crew and the drivers, and, it's a big operation for sure.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people really understand or even realize that. And speaking of being with these huge legacy artists, you've gotten to work with a Nashville resident, Crystal Taliaferro.
Yeah.
Who is in the Billy Joel crew and has also worked with Bruce Springsteen as well as John Mellencamp. How did you get hooked up with Crystal?
It's an interesting story. So I took some private students. I still have a few. I don't teach as much as I used to, but I had a girl, and I was teaching her a Billy Joel song, and she happened to be friends with Crystal's daughter. And they were, at each other's house. I guess my student was over at Crystal's house and saw that she had a piano and she was playing the song. And she goes, "How did you learn to play that?" Because a lot of the Billy Joel stuff, like a lot of the rock stuff, commercial stuff, in lesson books, it's just not correct. There's a lot of errors there, especially there was back 10 years ago or so. And she heard it and she was like, "Oh, he must know what he's doing," or whatever. Right. And I didn't hear anything else from it, but I took it and I was super excited to even get that kind of a compliment, And then one day, she came by and wanted to know if I would teach her daughter. Her daughter showed some interest. So I started teaching her piano as well. And she found out that I did music as well and was writing. And she was just a huge influence on me because she took a chance and took her time. And we went to Dark Horse Studio and recorded 6 of my original songs. And, I was like, at that time in my life, I was just like, what am I doing? I mean, I'm playing at anything I can get my hands on. I'm teaching, I'm anything that said music, I was doing it, and we talked and I was like, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to hang in there. This isn't really what I came to town for. And she's like, if you want me to record you, I'll do it. So then we started, that process, which recording something, is a months long, at least, if not years long process. So we got to spend a lot more time together in the studio. My favorite part was doing all the background vocals on stuff because we got to do that together. And, that was a thrill. I learned a lot and just thoroughly enjoyed that. So, yeah. And ever since, we're still really good friends. And, I'll reach out to her. She was battling really a serious cancer diagnosis. And I went to see her and she seems to be doing a lot better. And that's a huge blessing. I was praying for her pretty hard on that. So she,
boy, she's come out really strong. I saw her
I know
perform with Billy up in Boston.
Yeah.
And yeah, when she hit the big screen for the first time, that was their first show back, after COVID. And it's I was really emotional. I was like, go. Like,
no kidding.
Awesome.
Yeah. So she's an extremely strong person and just super talented. I wouldn't be surprised at all if she was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that you were talking about, before. I mean, she's just, when you start digging through how many artists she's played with. And at first you're like, well, I wonder, what it is about her that's so valuable. I just wonder why all these artists are like, boy, I got to have her on my team. And then getting to work with her, it was easy to see, why you would want her on your team if you could have her. So, yeah. 100%.
It's amazing because with somebody like that with such raw talent, I mean, like Billy Joel himself says, she could do it all. It's beyond even that. I'm sure she's great to just simply work with. It's got to be a pleasure, I'm sure.
And a lot of folks, I didn't know this coming into town, but when you get to that level, which to me is just the top of the top, right? A lot of these people are super down to earth, very warm folks, like you would think that they would be, have a tendency to have more of like an egotistical bent to them, but a lot of them don't, so you would just never know the level that you're working with unless you go online and look it up, which
true.
Yeah.
Now, obviously you have a townhouse, so you don't have enough room for like your own recording studio or anything like that.
No, I patronize a lot of friends in town when I need to record. I have some different places to go, but yeah, I'm probably going to get something kind of a small setup. We might get a home here before too long and have some studio space, which now it's a lot more affordable to do that. So you almost, if you're a musician and you have the space, you almost have to get at least a demo quality studio so that you can kind of, when you're doing a song on your own, it sounds great. And you might feel like, this is going to be a hit. This is going to be a hit. It's that initial excitement of writing. And then once you go in the studio and you demo and you're like, and you listen back to it in the car or something, maybe it's not as great as you thought. Right. And it costs a lot of money to do that. So if you have your own little setup, you can at least demo it, listen to it around the house, throw some drums, bass and keys on there or something, just a rough mix and live with it a little while. And then if it's worth it, then you can, go and do a full blown deal. But so before too long, just not, I went with this for right now, but yeah, definitely on the docket is the studio.
So as far as your recording catalog goes, what do you have out there? Vinyl Days is your latest single at this moment?
Yeah, that was
Very
the one
fun.
we released.
Very fun.
Yeah, and I have a few that I'm going to release that I had those slated to release then and kind of held them back, and we're going to do like single by single. I had some country stuff out there as well. That was with a duo called Cherry Rain. It was like a female male pop country duo. So I've got that kind of different life out there as well, circling around. But I'd like to come back again and do some really, in my mind, what I have is like, I guess, inspirational to a certain extent, but something to like bring folks together. There's a lot of polarization going on. But I think it would be cool to write just some positive energy music. And I don't really know where that's going to go, but like piano driven, led, cool stuff that I'm into, if I get back in there, that's kind of what I want to do. I was going for like hooky melodies on the last thing and just fun music, a different stage of life, and now I'd like to do something that could make a difference if possible.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And having a good upbeat attitude and just, it's a lot of perseverance. I think that has to come with it. It's a tough business.
Yeah.
I think
Sure.
being in media, and I've done television for so many years and print as well, I just think music's probably at the top of that list as far as it being the toughest industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Billy Joel's had some interviews where he said, if I was to do that now, it would be harder because there's just not the timeline. A record company wants you to come in with like 1 million fans so that they can kind of come in and, give you a piece of the pie, but you've already kind of got a pie going yourself, as opposed to bringing you in young and developing you. There used to be developmental deals and there's not as many anymore. So I've worked with some. I had a young guy I worked with that was on America's Got Talent and did really, really well and launched his career on that show. Had a kid that I worked with a little bit that was on American Idol and he did really well. And I got some girls now that they are starting their band and they're doing really well, because the developmental deal is really not there. So a lot of folks are reaching out. So I'm doing a little bit of that to give back and that's been really fun as well, but as far as my own stuff, we're going to see where it goes. Right.
Yeah. I mean, you throw it against the wall, see if it sticks. I think that's, there's no exact formula for this business or maybe any business these days. It's just, there's no like total straight, here's the job security. Hey, you're going to be a doctor or lawyer. It's like, no, I think everything's competitive now.
You have never arrived. And a lot of times you're taking gigs, I'm playing at the Belmead Country Club next week, and a lot of it, I mean, I'll do some of my own stuff, but what they're going to want to hear is covers that have made it. Right. So like Just the Way You Are, Billy Joel, or The Way You Look Tonight, like they're not asking for my stuff. So in order to make a living too, sometimes you got to just, and I love those tunes. So it's really easy to fall into that as well. Right. So
selling your car to Carvana is as easy as...
As easy as pie?
Sure. All you have to do is enter your license plate or VIN.
As easy as a stroll in the park.
Okay, then just answer a few questions and you'll get a real offer in seconds.
As easy as singing.
Why not? Schedule a pickup or drop off and Carvana will pay you that amount right on the spot.
As easy as playing guitar.
Actually, I find that kind of difficult. But selling your car to Carvana is as easy as...
Can be.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get an instant offer today.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It's just tricky to get to put enough time into each bucket. But so far, as long as you can make a living doing it, I remember asking another mentor of mine that he's played with Michael McDonald for, I think, 10 years and was the band leader for Olivia Newton-John. And I said, like, when do you make it? Like, when do you, because I felt like this guy, if anybody had made it, that that he made it. And he said something kind of like, you don't really ever make it per se, like you do in some other professions, like you said, like when you become a doctor and you've done your residency and now you're an established physician, for the most part, you've made, you've set your goal and you've achieved it. But with music, you don't really ever make it. Each tour you have to get rebooked. So even if you're the piano player for Carrie Underwood for 30 years solid, 31, they might go with somebody else, or whatever it may be, or you've written hit after hit, what's going on right now. So you're constantly reinventing yourself, constantly trying to gain new skills and become, relevant, and try to figure out, how to continue your career. So.
Yeah, you have to be kind of entrepreneurial in a way, and being an entrepreneur in the music business is somebody like Crystal. It's like she's not just with this one artist. I mean, she's worked with several. The platter is very wide. So I mean, and she's there in Music City there, just doing her thing, and developing people like you. It's really neat. You've also worked with some other folks there too. Some very, very talented people, like Ron Browning.
Oh yeah, Ron. Yeah, I had an opportunity. One of my best friends, he passed away about, gosh, almost 10 years ago. I guess it would have been 9 years ago. And I met him. His name was Maurice Carter. And he met when at that time, when you get out of college and you come to Nashville, I mean, I went to school here. It's just a lot to take in. You feel like you're just going to kind of start sailing and, you're off to the races with your career. And a lot of times it doesn't work that way. So I met this guy, and he super inspirational, brought me to Ron, because he took voice from Ron, and he was a background singer for Wynonna Judd. So I got to meet those folks, and he did other things too and had a solo career, but that was kind of his platform gig, So I met Ron and didn't really know Ron, but I had did musical theater stuff and other type of things as well. And he was a commercial vocal coach, and he's worked with everyone, So he told me, I'll work with you if you want, I'll take you on as well. So working with him really helped me make the transition from like a college, music degree kind of thing to the commercial music industry, and trying to develop your own sound and try to be unique and have technique, but not sound super technical, So he's great. I mean, he's worked with everyone, Lionel Richie and Patti LaBelle, Carrie Underwood, and, some of the big name. And I think, and his career has just continued to grow. So I don't even know what all he's done. If there's undergraduate band Fleet, he's a vocal coach for that band,
That's so
he's
cool.
kind of at the top at this point. So if you're, an epic major artist, you've probably run across Ron. So he's been instrumental too in helping me develop. So
Make serious connections in Nashville. It's just really fascinating.
you can. And if you want to go and just, make a living doing music, it's, a lot of Elvis Presley said, record in Nashville and then play outside of Nashville, because everybody does play here. So as far as coming here to perform to make a living, maybe not so much, but coming here to develop and, cultivate your skills and develop your craft. And then anywhere you go, you just have a leg up on a lot of people, because you've been around these just amazing artists that are contributing to these, major artists themselves, and it helps you, become your best as well. So then when you go, we'll go to Pensacola on vacation or something. And if I go into a piano store and I'm playing stuff, a lot of folks don't hear that kind of music in Pensacola where somebody's, at that level. And then you come to Nashville and you might know 20 people at that level, so it's just it's a whole different clientele. But
so how's the live music scene up in Nashville now through the pandemic? Are you starting to see the light through the trees? Is it people getting out there playing the cafes, and are you getting big acts at the arenas?
I think, yeah, we have one that we just it's south of town that they just started. And I think they just had, I think it was Harry Styles, maybe. I could be wrong, but I think he just came by. So yeah, they're starting to do that again, in your major, venues like Bridgestone or Ryman, Grand Ole Opry. And they all have their different rules, for entry on that, depending on the venue. And then your smaller stuff is starting to open up. And what I have noticed that's kind of interesting is before the pandemic, a lot of folks in Nashville, you just tune out to music really quick if you're not in the scene. Like say you move to town and you're from California. At first, it's like, oh, my neighbor's son has a band, and a guy I met at Publix has a band or whatever. And you start going to all these things thinking it's a unique, I got invited to go to this, And then all of a sudden, a few months down the road, you've gotten invited to go every single day. And then you just kind of take a step back, right? But after the pandemic, coming back again, it seems like the appreciation for live music and just being around other people has went up. So I have noticed that. So that's kind of been a blessing, a cool thing that's come out of it.
Yeah. I like your single Cafe. How did that come about?
Well, I had a chance I was writing that as just a groove here. I was trying to look for something. I just wanted kind of like a groove bass line with some chords. And that's how I approached that one. And then I co-wrote that with a country writer named Kenneth Duncan. And it was just kind of like, almost like if you're sitting in a cafe and there's you have all this in your head about how you would approach someone, and you were going to, say the right thing at the right time. And it was just going to go perfectly. But a lot of times that just stays internal because you don't take that step to actually say anything at all. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, if you could come up with the perfect scenario as you're sitting in a cafe and you see someone you're interested in, what would that look like? If you actually did and said what you would like to do, and you didn't stumble all over yourself, and all that kind of thing. So that's where that came from.
So it's probably better just to come out with singles these days because of the formats. You got your Spotify's, your Pandora's. I miss the days of album.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the attention span, if you listen to a Beethoven symphony, it could be 30 to 40 minutes long or more. Right. And if you think about trying to, in today's world, how many people would do that? And then the album, sitting through 10, 12 song album, the same kind of thing. Well, we didn't have, even when I was younger, you had CDs, and a lot of times you listen to the whole CD. And as a writer, you find out later on, if you get on the CD, you make X amount of money, even if it's not the single. But in today's world, people are just listening. If they have the attention to sit through the 3 or 4 minute song, that's good, so you can only kind of expect one song from them, and if they like that song, they might search out other ones, but you really got to hook them on something that they enjoy in order for them to listen. They're not going to just put on the album and sit back and enjoy it.
Now, do you get into streaming like with Spotify and all of them? Are you into like seeing your numbers on those formats?
I did a little bit in the country, and then I took it off, and we tried some different marketing. When you're doing that, you're not really, it's more to gain, I guess, a platform and get an audience than to make money. So we tried some different things, and I'm kind of, kicking the tires on some different alternate, I guess, marketing options for that. But I had Vinyl Days, I still do, I guess, on iTunes, and I think it went everywhere. I think for that one. But the Cafe song, I'd like to release that one, hopefully in the next couple months, and do some more, solo shows with original music. That's the goal. But I have gotten a lot of gigs to do these, they call them cover gigs, basically other people's music, So I'm doing something at a piano store where I'm going to do a lot of songs that I really love, that I feel like have really nice piano in them, that when you have a full band, you just don't really hear how lush the chords are and so on, right? So I'm going to do that in a couple weeks. So I'm going to be doing like Billy Joel, Just the Way You Are. I'm going to do the song The Beach Boys, God Only Knows.
Oh, I've seen you do that on YouTube. Yeah, somebody doing that.
Yeah, so just things like that on like a really nice, like $200,000 piano at the piano store with the Bose set up vocally. So it's going to be a piano vocal thing. And I'm going to see how that goes too, because they asked me to do it, and that I'm excited about that almost as much as anything, getting to do something in that format. So.
Yeah, it seems like, they don't call them cover. It's like tribute bands. That's like
right.
The big thing. I did a story on Billy's lead guitarist, who works a lot with Crystal, Mike Del Judas, who is still doing the tribute band Big Shot.
Yeah.
Really fun story to do, because like he ended up in the real band. He's doing the tribute band. He's just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. And he's legit. Great singer, great musician. But yeah, and you don't really know where Crystal's written songs as well, and I'm sure Mike has written songs as well, but you just never know what thing is obviously most people are going to know Mike for being in the Billy Joel band, right? As they would if Elton John called me up and said, hey, I'd love for you to sing backgrounds. I am the background singer for Elton John, at that point, regardless of anything else I've done, because it just takes precedence, in importance, right? So of course, right? And I would be glad to do it. I would never turn it down, I'm definitely not one of those guys that's like, no, I'm going to stay true to, maybe it's just not having enough faith in what you're doing. But if I had that opportunity, I would definitely lay it down for something like that as a side gig, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, what an opportunity. All of them are great. And especially I know Billy's band, Carl Fisher does the horns, clarinet, does a lot of his own gigging and his stuff too. And Mark Rivera, who's the sax player. He has an amazing solo album. I have that in my iTunes. I'm just like, why aren't these huge hits? His voice is amazing. He's really incredible.
Yeah. I know it's something else. You just don't think, these folks, a lot of people, they're not aiming towards like singing backgrounds or, being called sideman or whatever. It's just something that ends up happening, but they're artists in their own right. They got chops on their own as well. And then you put those people behind someone that's like a once in a century type of talent like Billy Joel or Elton John, and then it's magical, what comes out of that. It's pretty cool.
Oh, the sound is always better. You could hear the same songs over and over.
Yeah.
Like, Just the Way You Are. And just like, it's just, it has that, it gives you that earworm and it's that familiarity. And you just love it. So with Just the Way You Are, and I know Billy Joel himself, I think he told CBS this, like you were talking about the sheet music. He's like, these guys really screwed this sheet music up. So you were able to see that early on when you looked at that and just said, wait, no, this isn't right. I'm going to correct this.
Yeah, because I always tell, if I'm developing an artist, it comes up a lot, like, oh, how do you play this to sound like the record, right? And a lot of music is a business. So, Hal Leonard or someone, and no fault of their own, they're releasing a book. It's like, oh, you want to play country piano? Well, here's the song. And it's going to be bare bones with notes that are not wrong per se, but how to do the flourishes and the style and play it in the pocket. And, that's really hard to notate. It used to be a lot harder to notate. So a lot of times they wouldn't do that. They would just put D, G over D, D. They wouldn't put in, the little riff, it's like, figure that out on your own, if you're doing classical music or something, you can look up a Beethoven sonata or something and play that verbatim, how Beethoven intended it. But with a lot of the commercial stuff, you couldn't. Now, I think Billy's keyboard player, the guy that plays Mr. Rosenthal, he does
David
a lot of
Rosenthal, his music director. Yeah.
I think
brilliant.
He went back and released another one that's legit. But when I was growing up, we didn't have that. So you kind of had to do it by ear. So a lot of Billy Joel stuff or Elton John, I would just listen and listen and listen and just try to get it, as close as I could, and pretty much all of that by ear. Because that's how a lot of these guys are writing songs, right? If you think about it from a composer perspective, they sit down, there's nothing, and they create something from nothing. They're not reading anything per se. Now they can write it down if they want, but it just comes from, that's kind of an interesting conversation. People have talked about that forever, like, where does it come from, kind of thing, right? But at first there's nothing there, and then they create it. So to be an authentic player and try to imitate that or channel that, it seems like it helps to approach it that way as well, where you're trying to listen and you're trying to feel it more than trying to overanalyze it, because that's not how it was created. Whereas like a Mozart, it comes from somewhere else too, but he's also writing it out. It just has more, it lends itself to that format, more musical notation. In jazz, it's a lead sheet, right? In the Nashville, it's a Nashville number system kind of thing. But anyway.
That's interesting. So you have a degree in piano performance?
I did. I ended up getting, I felt like I needed something to fall back on. That's probably not the safest choice. I say, my parents always joke around about that comment, like, what do you mean something to fall back on? Like, like a degree in piano performance would just pretty much set you up if it didn't work out in the other avenue. No. But I knew, teaching, it just seemed to be something that folks would always need, and I loved it. So I just decided that would be the thing that could help me. And I was playing in piano bars in Nashville when I was probably 18, 19. Started in St. Louis when I was about 16. Just kind of, as soon as I got my license, drive downtown, find a hotel with a piano. And back then, I guess as a young, kid, you don't have like great 4-star type of restaurant meals, right? So I would go play and I would take the tip money and go to this Italian restaurant across the street where everyone was dressed in a tux, and it just felt so cool to be able to go in there and sit down and have a meal, and they were like, what are you doing? Like, who is this guy? So that's where it all started. And then when I got to Nashville, you were playing classical music in the practice room and then going to these smoky, hole in the wall, piano bars and pretending you were Billy Joel, listening to his album the whole way there and just, living kind of the song out a little bit. And a lot of people have that experience, but it really makes you appreciate his stuff then, because you just see it. I mean, when you're playing Piano Man in a piano bar, you feel like you're in the music video, So it's pretty cool. But
that totally captures it. I know, it really always you don't even need the video. It's like, a lot of these earlier Billy Joel songs is like, you don't really need the music video. I mean, he's describing and you can picture this.
And you feel like you're playing the character. It's like, almost every piano bar I'd ever played, it is like that, it's 9:00, I mean, it's like the whole, from the downbeat, it's like, wow, this is a really great way. I couldn't have explained this any better, and you're just sitting there like, how did this guy know? He wrote this song 40 years ago or something. And here you are playing it, watching the same scene take place,
Nothing's changed. It's going on.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So you picked up piano when you were 4? Just did you start noodling? Did they give you lessons?
Just kind of goofing off. I mean, my dad was singing in Branson, Missouri. I don't know if you've heard of. There's a lot of live music shows. Yeah. So I grew up around musicians and players, where they would show me something and I would learn it. But up until I got in, I guess I was in 6th grade when I had someone show me something, because the choir director of my middle school choir hated piano. That was her exact word. She was a vocalist and she had to take piano proficiency, and she's like, I don't want to do this ever again. And if you play at all, I will teach you how to play all our warm-ups. So I started doing that. And then it was more just like a skill to help others at first. And I sang more than played, and then got more into that when I learned you could go to, do hotels and make some extra money, and went to school and majored in piano and had a great piano professor. And
y'all make it seem very effortless, although I know you're putting a lot of effort into it, because it's singing well. I'm sure this is incredibly tough. And with the technology, I'm sure you got to hear yourself back a bit. And I'm sure it's hard to listen to yourself. I mean, if I did that, I don't want to listen to myself. I mean,
100%.
Listen to our voices back. A lot of us.
No, yeah. I mean, it's almost like if you put your hands over your ears and you just start to talk, that's kind of how it feels in the studio. That's just like a pretty, that's definitely not an exact analogy there. But when you do listen back the first time, it's just like, wow, that's how I sounded. It can be deflating. I try to always go in the studio if I've worked with a younger artist that first time, because very rarely are they going to come out just like, wow, I sound as good as I thought I did, because it's a dry, vocal. And now you can do a lot on the back end production wise to make that sound smoother and all that. But at first it is hard to get used to. But then there's an art to that too. It's hard to, when you're playing live, there's an excitement and an energy that comes with that when you're in the studio, you kind of have to figure out how to create that, even though it is, you're in a little booth with headphones and a channel, all these different channels, trying to get the click up the certain way or the bass or whatever. So you want to have that live sound, even though obviously it's not live. So it's just like anything, it takes practice, and you can get better at that, the more you do it.
Yeah. So for the future, you just want to keep releasing singles and getting the gigs wherever you can in the area.
That's really the truth of it. Yeah. I mean, just, continuing to work, doing what you love, and when the inspiration comes, and, write something and do a little pre-production, and then see if it's worth going and doing a full thing. And releasing songs, and hopefully getting some placements, film and TV, and just seeing where it leads,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. And
no, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Excellent. And best wishes for the future, and just keep at it.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Have a good one.
All right. Hey, you too. All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. Bye.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.